This is Lizzie, and it's high time I updated this portrait process video that I had last time I updated it. It was only 18 months of progress, but as you can see, this portrait which is my first portrait in Procreate, was done on the 1st of September in 2020. So we are approaching the 4-year anniversary, so let's get into it. So first, I wanted to make sure that you know that there's a non-commented version of it where I swipe faster, because not everyone is into the commentary. So let's just do it. These portraits were the very first ones that I did, and are made after a Skillshare class that I took by Charly Clements, I think, and she gave me the actual confidence to start drawing people, although after a while I thought that they look very basic and not my style, so I started experimenting with more textures, and obviously I had to get the Glanz Aquarelle watercolor set that I used for a while, and at the end of 2020 and the beginning of 2021 I started using those, and these portraits are basically inspired by some sort of Pinterest image that I saw and made with the Glanz Aquarelle set, and they do look very realistic, to be honest, but I am not happy with how messy they look, so I would not consider them really great. I remember this one specifically. I think this was the 30th of or the 31st of December in 2020. So this is how much I did in 2020 portrait-wise in Procreate, and after that, this was in January. I remember this because I specifically remember putting this one next to one of the really bad paper drawings that I did, because then I was drawing for 1 year, and I showed off to a friend of mine that, oh, look, this is how long I came, and I was really proud of this one. So I remember that. And I also remember that this one, I was also really proud. This one is inspired by Kellogsloops and also made with the Aquarelle set by Glanz. But I also started realizing that you don't have to do so much aqua part. And I tried to make it a little bit less smudgy and more towards the style of what I started. And then I got super focused on getting all these pretty shading that everyone seems to be able to do on their characters and make characters, and I can't do it, so I started doing it. But this is probably the only person that I drew that is just from my mind and actually has clothes on, because as you will see, there's a lot of naked people in my portfolio. Or, well, artistically naked people. But yeah, I don't like drawing clothes, and I think in my art it actually makes it worse. So there's less clothes and more drawing. And on this one, I remember that I was just listening to I think it was a video or a documentary that I was listening on genetic modification, and I was thinking about how to genetically modify people, and I was just thinking how cool it would be if you would be able to grow plants on yourself. So yeah. And I just started using a different texture on the skin, and have this paper overlay that I made called Scratchy Paper, that is to this day is available on my Gumroad for some reason. And then I went into this whole rabbit hole of sci-fi, and since Rubin is such an inspiration for me, I always wanted to draw like her, because not even the hyper-realism, but the feeling that her illustrations are giving to me are amazing. So I always wanted to start doing something like her. I even got her book and learned more about what made her herself, and as you can see, her influence is very obvious with the black body and the line on the lip and the white hair. These are all very Laura Rubin inspired, and the white hair thing is has like stayed for a very, very long time. And at this point I wanted to do more loose flowers and painterly look, but I never really stuck with that one. So yeah, this one was a Draw This in Your Style for my friend Una, or Inky Paper House as of now. Then it was Cards and Hugs, and I was really proud of this, that I could draw this for her Draw This in Your Style. And for a while I was going with this kind of aesthetic of using my Box of Fun set on my Gumroad and using the rice shading as a shader, and it gave such a nice smooth parts to the shaded areas. I actually still really like it, and I still really like the whole blocked out hair. I think it's such a statement, and I don't know, I was really into drawing eyes like this. But I'm not sure if I like it anymore, and you can see how bad I was with the eyelashes. I came a long way when it comes to eyelashes. My eyelash progress is amazing. I actually really like the eyelashes that I managed to do. This was my very first Draw This in Your Style that I hosted, and I specifically remember that this image took me at least 10 hours to make. And when artists say that, oh, it took so much and whatever, I'm like, oh my god, you must have put so much work in it. And I did put so much work in it, but one of the things that I didn't realize as an artist, that I put so much effort in so tiny details that you can't even tell when you are looking at it. So since then I learned that it's better to just go with the bigger details that will make a bigger impact than, for example, spending millions of years trying to perfect the lines on the flowers that no one will ever notice. This was the first drawing that I did after taking the Domestica class of Elena Garno, and I really liked her drawings, but I did not understand how she did the hyper-realistic pencil drawing part of it, and I did not get that part for a very, very long time after that either. But this one, since it was so new for me, this one also took me forever to finish. And at the time, I thought that this was like the peak of my entire drawing, and that this is the best that I will ever do and nothing better will ever come. And then I drew this, and then I thought that this was the peak of everything, because this one looked so cool and I really liked her entire expression, and I was like, oh my god, now I can draw the expression. I will never draw anything ever again, because if I draw something more, then it will be worse, and then I'm just going downhill from here. But yeah, I don't like anymore how much I used the dark lines and how saturated this piece is. I do way less saturated pieces now, but I do like the black. There's a lot of black in my art, and this one I made for a collaboration that we were doing at the time with Brittany Keller, Una from Inky Paper House, and Annie and Nicole. We were doing a little Mystical May prompt list thing, and we were basically collaborating as artists and getting people together to draw, and it was great. It was my first collaboration that I ever did, so I will forever remember these ladies. And for a while after that, I kept just drawing these black line, white line, oversaturated with texture overlay kind of drawings with very bad eyelashes. And I don't think I liked it so much at the time either, because I started doing black and white right after, and the blocked out hair just stayed, which I actually really like, and I think it looks much more striking. This one is actually a piece that I still think could work nowadays, like in 2024, but just to be clear, we are at 2021 now. But yeah, it's definitely something interesting to look back on. I can't get over the eyelashes, but I really love the gouache effects that I started putting in, because gouache became a very big part of my art later on. I was refining how to draw the dark lines on this one already, but I still think that it looks more like a sculpture than a drawing, and I'm not sure that I like it, and I know that it's kind of wrong to judge my old art, but I think it's important to realize how far I came, and I do realize that I came far from what this is, and this was an important stepping stone at that point. Just like this one was important because the whole blocking out an entire spot, like the sweater of her, was very new for me and very wild idea to just go that illustrative, but I kept looking at Elena Garnou's work, and since I really loved her work, I really wanted to do something that was reminiscent of hers. And this one was actually, it's an interesting one, because one of my friends that I mentioned from before on the challenge, Annie, she had this as a profile picture, and I found this picture on Pinterest and I really wanted to draw it, so I drew it, and her proportions are way off compared to the image, but I was so happy with how it turned out with the oranges and the yellows, and this was a canvas that I made myself, and as in the canvas texture overlay, and I was really happy how it turned out differently on different colors with the oranges, and I was really into this whole one pop color and the rest is black and white. This was, I would call, my first pencil era, because I really thought that this was the pencil look that I really loved. But of course I had to do some editing and added some chromatic aberration to make it more interesting. I started to get a bit better on the eyelashes, and the eyes I think are more detailed and better than the ones that I had just a moment ago. And to this day I find these drawings, these black and white pencil kind of drawings, really cute, and I don't mind them. And this one was my first ink drawing, although I used my ink brushes, the Inkway, I think it's the Inkway brush set that I made this for, because I made the ink brushes for people, and I'm like, oh my god, but I don't even know how to draw with ink. And it took me forever to do the bushes on the side, and I made sure that the leaves are like perfect again. And yes, it did not really matter that it was perfect or not, because you can't really tell, so this is not really an important detail. But I did like the fact that you could do dithering so easily in Procreate. When it takes so long in my sketchbook, I do a lot of dithering in my sketchbook. So this was a game changer for me, although it did feel very weird to draw this simple compared to the other drawings that I've done so far. And I really loved the concept of this one, and I kind of want to remake this one or rework it, because I love the ruins and how she's just lying there and her hair becomes a river. And this one actually did not come from any image or any concept art that I've seen. This was just in my head, which is very rare because I don't usually have stuff in my head. And then I went into my second, I don't know, I can't count anymore, watercolor semi-realistic era in which I started layering more and more watercolor instead of doing the whole pencil things. And when I did do pencil, I just went in and did it with the color that I wanted to use, and I brought back the blocked out hair thing again. This was another Draw This in Your Style that I hosted, and I really don't like this picture. I really dislike it. There are so many things about it that I hate now. I think I can confidently say the word hate, because there's a lot about her that I wish I didn't do the way I did, but I think it's an important part to edit that although she did not turn out the way that I wanted to, or I guess I was happy with it at the time. Today I find it oversaturated, it's not blended correctly, like the hard and soft edges are all wrong, and it's just so red. Like, she's so red. She's just... yes, I'm roasting my own art. Deal with it. This one is a selfie, actually. I have a selfie of this angle, but I modified my face, and the way I modified it, it makes it look really weird, because my jawline is all weird on it. But I really like how I blended the cheeks. At this point in my art, I was really happy at how I was blending the cheeks and the nose. The top part of the nose, kind of like the the eyelids, I guess. I was very happy about that, and for a long time this was my favorite ever piece that I made. But again, I did some... This one is, for example, I think too much contrast, and while one of my friends really loved this picture and he used it as his profile picture on his Twitch, it still needs something, just a bit more. But we are still in 2021. This is the end of 2021. This one was made for the Design Cuts Draw Yourself Challenge, and is also a redrawing of one of my selfies that I took when I was a photographer. And I was a very big fan of this picture, because I thought that this was a accurate representation of my inner self, or how I see myself. Although if I look at it today, it's the eyes that I don't like, how I used to paint eyes. And then I entered my fully watercolor era of my own brushes. This was when I was starting using the Solaris brushes, or rather started embracing the Solaris brushes on their own, without having pencil to hold it together. And I really liked these 2 or 3, I think I did 2 or 3 of these paintings where it was only just the watercolor and no pencils to keep it together. And this used to be my main image of my website, because I loved it so much. I was just so happy with these Solaris brushes, like it was my go-to brushes for the longest time. Now it's Lunaro, but Solaris was my favorite brush set ever, and this one was the testament of that brush set, because this painting it was my absolute freaking favorite ever. And I know that I said it like a million times now, but I always like super focus on one drawing, and then I decide that, oh yes, this is my painting, this is good, this is nice, and everything else that I did in the past is bad. So at the time, this was that painting, that the one that I did, the one that is good, and everything else in the past is bad. And I wanted to marry the two art styles that I usually did together, because I was so self-conscious about the fact, and I still am today, that I do realistic paintings, and on the side I'm doing these storybook drawings, and I wanted to marry the two together. I'm not sure if it worked. At the time I felt it did not work, but now I'm looking at it and I feel like it kind of does. And I got very, very confident about that other painting, and then I did this one and I lost all my confidence, because this one turned out again oversaturated, and oversaturation is probably a story of my art. This particular painting was another Solaris painting, and I was very proud of this one again at the time, and I would still call this and be proudly stand next to this painting and say that this is mine, because I thought that this was a very good showcase of the brush set itself. And also I made this because I wanted to make a professional portfolio, and I wanted to include paintings of just random people, and this was one of it. This is also one of those things that I just wanted to include random people things. And at this point I was going back to the Elena Garnou things, that I really liked Elena Garnou, and I rediscovered her art. This was like a year later when I first started looking at her art, and I did a couple of these drawings, and I still really like these, and I especially like how I did the hair. And then I went back and forth between my darkness and these lighter drawings. To this day, this one and her friends are the 3 paintings that I still have hanging on my wall out in the living room, because I was very happy about these. They were all live streamed on Discord as well, so I was doing it while talking to the community, so I have very happy memories about them. After that, this one was kind of a low memory moment. I remember I was very sad when I was doing this. Depression is always an overarching theme in my works, since depression is basically the reason why I started drawing. I started going to therapy, and the psychiatrist suggested to pick up something to do every day to get me out of bed, and it was drawing that I always wanted to try, but my parents never let me. This is the first ever, I guess, illustration, I would say, that I started doing gouache on. This is the first one that my future style really shines through, and at the moment, or when I did it, I really didn't like it. I made this as a drawing for the Twisted Summer drawing challenge that I hosted with a couple of other artists from my Discord, and at the time it looked very weird, and I did not find it alluring at all, so I used a completely different drawing for the challenge. But I included it in this because this was the first time in 2022 summer that I actually started doing the style that is, well, most of my body of work that I am proud of. Same Twisted Summer challenge, I tried to do pencil drawings, I guess my second pencil drawing era, which turned out much better than the first one, and I started to implement parts of it that I usually only did with animal drawings, and adding the whole highlights and just dark drawings and getting light from the sign. And I wanted to include this one because it's an ink portrait, that's true, and it's kind of off because there is not many ink portraits that I did that I am very happy about, but this one was quite a change, and it's very much of a signature style for me to add ink flowers to my ink drawings. So I thought that it must be here. I don't think there's any ink drawings in this entire, maybe there's one more. And after that, this became a thing. The whole watercolor, gouache, and the pen look. At this point, I did not dare doing the gouache swooshes, so it doesn't look much gouache, because I was filling it up with the color very, very, very strictly, because I was very insecure about showing off the brush strokes. But later on, I get more and more free with it, and also more free with the watercolor tool. And these paintings are probably my favorite in my entire body of work, and they feel like me the most. And this was in the beginning of 2023. To this day, this is the one that I use as my brush set image, and or every single brush that I have has this image on it because it's my favorite. And in 2023 April of 2023, I was going to therapy again, and the therapist suggested to do a self-love series. So I did some self-love images, I think 7 or 8 of them. I only included 2 of them in this one, as you can see, very illustrative, and pen and gouache and some watercolors, which is very, I guess, that's descriptive of my entire style, overarching. And I keep going back and forth with pencil as well. At this point, I was so ready to do more pencil again, and for a while I turned back to doing pencil hair and still going with gouache and watercolor and the ink. And then I took a Domestica class because I felt burnt out after that self-love series. So I took a Domestica class by Marco Mazzoni, who is a really, really great Italian artist. I can just recommend him. It's amazing. And he made a point about not lifting your pencil when you are drawing with pencils, and also using a little windows technique, that you don't look at the entire artwork but just a tiny bit where you work on, so you don't overwhelm yourself. It's the complete opposite that I usually do, which is I try to work on the entire piece at the same time, because otherwise I get lost in details that will never be seen. But it was interesting to try that again. I once again realized that I like doing the whole drawing at the same time and not the refocusing method, because it took me way too long to, for example, finish this piece. And you can't see most of the work that I did because it's so much further down the line, and it's so hidden behind these lines that you just can't see it. And this one is officially the longest piece that I've ever done, and not because it's complicated, because it really is not, but it's so much little brush strokes, and it's the testament of the thought of getting lost in the details. It is over 14 hours, I think it was, and that is only on the canvas. So not counting all the times when I'm lifting my pencil, it's only on the canvas. And you can see most of my work that I did with it. I still really like this artwork though. I really enjoy how it turned out. And this is the singular artwork that I did for Inktober 2023. I included because it's an ink artwork and I wanted to show how I'm working with ink as well, that I am a bit on the ink side as well, but ink is something that I usually only use in my sketchbook and not digitally. It's very interesting because on paper I basically only use pen, so I don't use any watercolor or pencil even, just pen. In the beginning of 2024 I started doing these very blue drawings inspired by Hey Judy. Oh my god, I hope I said it correctly, on Instagram, and she was a great inspiration to start doing more simpler artworks of people and faces and simplify shapes. And it was perfect for me because I was working on my charcoal brushes, and although it's not charcoal, so it's not black, it was perfect for me to test out and work on charcoal as well, and figure out if I need any fine-tuning as well. So I loved doing this series of blue portraits, and then after that I went back to the watercolor and ink. At the time I thought it was ink that I wanted to do, and I did enjoy this one. It's very, very Greece inspired. It's I actually pulled up a picture of Greece next to my drawing or sketch of this, and tried to decipher how Conrad Roset drew Greece, and tried to decipher the colors and how he used colors. And I don't know if it actually worked. Maybe it worked for this one, but the moment I didn't have Greece next to me, it all fell apart. This was also supposed to be Greece inspired, but I didn't have the photo of Greece next to me, and I just went with what I would do with this painting, and it all turned out to be kind of a mess. But then I went back to, again, the pencil and watercolor effect, which seems to be a pattern, that I go from pencil, watercolor, and then I overcomplicate, and then I go to something super simple because I kept simplifying it, and then I just only drew some eyes. This was in 2024 spring. This one actually is a Patreon tutorial for the spring of 2024, and I loved doing this. This was so good, and it just flew very nicely, and we did it in live as well, so that was great, and I was very, very proud how the eyelashes turned out. And the eyebrows started looking nice as well. And then I started overcomplicating again and started drawing full faces, and we are almost where we are right now. So don't worry, there's not much left. This artwork is actually venting piece. The entire hand is made out of writing of venting that was on my mind, and then I erased parts of it, so you can't actually read it, or well, I guess you could if you would zoom in very nice, very, very much, and you could read my handwriting. But for this I already used the Lunaro watercolors, and the Lunaro watercolors are my favorite thing ever. And I also realized that I don't have to overcomplicate the colors to make it look very refined. This is only 2 or 3 layers of color, and then I again overcomplicated, and we are ending this entire video on this overcomplicated note, which is fine, I guess, because who knows where we are going from here. So this is the last image in this show reel, I guess, and this is also a venting piece, and you can kind of see it on the wrist, the writings, and I completely overcomplicated this with the whole lighting situation, and I just had to add more color, and I don't know why I always do this, that I start overcomplicating the simple things. But yes, this is how it has been the past 4 years, going from simple to complicated, from pencil to watercolor to gouache, and then going through the entire cycle one more time. And I hope that you are going to join me on this journey if you haven't already. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video, even though it was a bit more casual and a bit more rambling than usual. I hope to see you both here in the community on Discord or on Patreon, whichever place I see you next. I hope that you're having a nice day or whatever time you have right now, and take care of yourself. Bye!